What's going on, YouTube? Legend here once again, this time at you again with some more Honkai Star Rail. And guys, I heard through the grapevine that a lot of you guys were having trouble, alright? After I did the story quest, which you guys can go check out the reaction for, I learned that they had to nerf the Acheron boss fight because a lot of people were struggling. And I saw a lot of people posting that they were struggling, and and I know that a lot of people in this space are hardcore players, so some of it is preaching to the choir, but a lot of you guys, whether you care to admit it or not, did struggle with that Acheron boss fight. And I think, actually I'm pretty sure, that a lot of that revolved around not fully understanding how to build proper teams and what to do. Because let's face it, for those of you who are day one players, some of you have kind of gotten to understand what it takes to make a good team. But a lot of you new people, you don't. And it doesn't make you stupid or anything like that, but it's just more so there isn't something that specifically tells you on how to build a team, what requirements there are. And the way I look at it is this, as content creators, that's our job, to teach you how to do that. Because there's a lot of possibility when it comes to that. So what I want to do is make this video and teach you guys how to do 3 times more damage on your accounts and clear the content a little bit better by just simply team building. There are many different ways in order to increase the damage on your team, to increase the survivability on your team. I'd say, when building a character correctly, there's make sure to have the proper light cone, making sure the traces are leveled up, making sure they have good relics that are leveled and the right type of relics, and then what teams you're putting them on. Now, each one of those things can take their own video within itself. So I feel that I should do a video on each thing in the future. I'll do so, but we're gonna focus on teams right now to keep things simple, okay? So, one thing I noticed, there was this thread going around where people to make fun of the people who are struggling with Acheron, people were posting screenshots of the people and the team comps that they had, and basically saying this is why you guys are losing, right? So let's use one of those team comps, okay? And the character we're going to focus on is going to be Seely, right? A lot of people have Seely. She had the highest banner sale. She was the first one to come to the game, so a lot of people have her. So we're going to use her as an example, all right? And I feel that she is somebody that does scale very well when it comes to having a good team as a supporter. Let's give her a good old team comp that a lot of people also were using. So they had Seely. Well, I'll do an example. Let's say they had Seely, they had Dr. Ratio, and then they'll have, 2 sustains, like let's say Japard and Natasha. All right, I only have them built right now, but let's use this team right here. Okay, so let's go to the MOC and let's see how this team fares. We'll go to floor 11. Okay. Because I feel like a lot of people understand how to match up elements, so I'm not really going to explain that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that team that I just talked about here. I'm going to throw it in MOC. And we're going to see how Seely's damage does when trying to do that. We're going to use our techniques. So we're trying our best right now. Now we are looking with Dr. Ratio when it comes to this a little bit, because those pigs help Dr. Ratio get all the debuffs, so he can still work. But he's still not hitting as hard as I want him to, though, I'll tell you that. And then we have Seely. Let's see what she can do. We got our burst up. Now let's give this guy a good old burst and see what's popping here. How much damage does she do? Oh, she doesn't even crit. All right, it's not looking too hot. We're gonna need Natasha to wake up. Oh, okay, never mind. And I expected this to get destroyed, but I do want to at least get a nice crit with her. All right, let's just have her do this on the Trotter. 60K. 60K burst. Now, let's get out of here, because I'm gonna get my ass beat again. Let's take a look at my Seely. Let's see how she's built right now. She is E1, right? So she only gets crit rate. Now, her build doesn't look that great on first glance, at least from my perspective, but it's better than you think. So she has a signature light cone, so she should be doing a lot of damage. I have a signature light cone, but she only did 60k for some reason. When people will think, well, I mean, as long as I spend money and get the signature light cone and get Eidolon, they should just be doing a lot of damage, but 60k isn't a lot. I mean, some people may be, but not so much, right? So, what do? My traces, they're all maxed out, right? She has the right relics on, okay? So why am I seeing other people do 400,000 damage, 300,000 damage, 500,000 damage, and I'm only doing 60k? Well, that's a good question. Well, let me ask you this. My Sealy is basically trying desperately by herself to do as much damage as she can. But what's helping her do that? What's helping her do more damage, okay? Because what does Dr. Ratio do to help Sealy do more damage? Because I'm thinking, well, if I just have more people dealing damage, then I'll get double the damage, right? As we saw what numbers Dr. Ratio was doing. He was doing 20, 30k on these crits. So not as much as Sealy's burst. So I don't know. He wasn't even doing as much damage as she is. Then you have Japard, who's just trying to keep the team alive, and you have Natasha, who's just trying to keep the team alive. Natasha is not built. Well, she's not built at all. That's why she died, all right? But the survivability of the team isn't what matters. Really, I'm trying to focus on Sealy's damage. But Japard is built. I mean, Japard is partially built, but I feel like a lot of people are going to have their relics looking like that, right? And his shield wasn't that bad. He still has a signature shield on. He still has some traces leveled up. You know, he's not that bad right now. You know, you want, well, okay, never mind. He's bad. You want Japard to be a lot faster than this. You know, details. This team isn't doing too hot, right? So what do I do in order to raise the damage of this team? Step one is to understand the roles that each character has on the team. You want to know, so there's different types of team comps, okay? There's hyper carry team comps. There's dual DPS team comps. You can do like triple DPS, but that is where you get into just bad team comp territory. You do not want a triple DPS comp. The highest you want to go is dual DPS comps, right? And within those comps, you have subcategories, right? You have follow-up teams, you have dot teams, and you just have teams where you just buffing the DPSs and call it a day, right? So Sealy is what we like to call a hyper carry, and a hyper carry is a character that wants to have the team focused around them doing as much damage as possible, right? She wants to be the only one doing the damage. And one way to indicate that is the fact that she wants to use a lot of skill points, okay? If you notice in that example, I was using a lot of skill points and I was running out of skill points. I couldn't do my skills with Japard and trying to heal with Natasha too, and try and get my stuff done with my skills out with Ratio and her too. Everybody wanted to use skill points on that team, and there's just not enough. So that's one indication to show you, hey, this character might want to just be the main person using skill points. So Sealy, hyper carry, okay? So she wants the rest of the team to focus on making her as strong as possible. So that's what we should do. So let's try this again. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take out Dr. Ratio. We're going to put in Silverwolf. We're going to keep, let's at least give Natasha the fighting chance. How about it? All right. So we gave some more survivability to Japard and Natasha real quick. You know, he's still slow as molasses, but what can you do? I just don't have the speed relics for him. I'm gonna need to build some in order to get ready for Aventurine, but we'll get there when we get there. And now we're gonna put in Silverwolf, right? Why are we putting in Silverwolf? Because, well, Silverwolf is going to add defense shred to the enemies. That's going to help Seal do more damage. And the fact that she uses Quantum set because Quantum already does take off some defense or does help her ignore defense from the enemies, coupled with Silverwolf, that's going to help her deal more damage, right? So that's one thing to remember too. The more defense shred, the better. Can we please not? So let's hope we crit this time. Because now we got this Shredder right here down. And we got his defense down too. So let's take a look here. Shredder's defense is down 8%, 45%, all that good stuff. We even got the Aether Code on. So we have a few things working in our favor. Now let's compare the damage difference. 92. 92K. Okay. Now we're looking better here. We are looking better. So now that is actually a 50% damage increase. All right. Now we're almost about to hit 100K. Wow. But here's the thing, right? My Sealy has 59% crit rate, right? That is not a lot. That's not a lot of crit rate. Now keep in mind her Eidolon is giving her 15% more crit rate, right? So she's actually sitting at 74% crit rate, okay? And that's better. That's better. But we want Sealy to, because Sealy does single hits that are very strong. So we want to have more crit rate, right? So let's change the team even more. So let's do something like this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take out Japard and we're going to put in Fu Xuan. So now we're going to have Fu Xuan in here trying to do her thing. So with Fu Xuan in there, now Fu Xuan is going to give me more crit rate, okay? So Fu Xuan is going to give me more crit rate, but she's not adding much damage, but she's giving more crit rate. So now I'm not crit fishing when it comes to that 90K, okay? And she's helping me keep the team alive, right? But now here's the reason why soul sustains are so great. Because now that Fu Xuan is here, I don't need Natasha anymore to give me that extra little bit of healing. So now I can put it in somebody else that can buff Sealy more. And then, next you know, we're now at the team that I was at when I started this here. The good old Mono Quantum team. Now we have Sparkle buffing Sealy. Now we have Silver Wolf debuffing the enemy. And then we have Fu Xuan keeping the entire team alive by herself and giving Sealy some crit rate. And now let's take a look at the result and what happens with Sealy's damage. Keep in mind, I'm not doing any of this with Sealy's Resurgence. Oof. Wow. Even when it comes to Silver's damage is higher now because Sparkle is doing so much. That's why having cracked harmony characters like Ron, May, Sparkle, or maybe even Robin is going to do a fantastic job. So now what we're going to do is this. So now, as we take a look at Sealy now, now she has 81% crit rate, right? Crit damage is out the roof because of Sparkle. And then keep in mind, I'm getting another 15%. So now I'm at 96% crit rate. I'm going to crit this. I'm going to crit it. Like, you know how they say either it's 100% or it's 50%, whatever. I'm going to crit this, okay? I was at 59% crit rate because I built a good team around her. I'm getting 10% from Sparkle. I'm getting 12% from Fu Xuan. And then I have my Eidolon too. All of a sudden 59%, which looked trash, is now almost perfect. My Sparkle is E2, so you're gonna see maybe more than 3 times more damage. You know, I'm getting all kinds of buffs right now. I'm getting all kinds of buffs. I got 11 buffs going on me right now. Let me look at the enemy. You know, they got the debuffs, they got the defense down, they got everything right there. So now let's see what happens to them. I mean, 289,000 damage, right? We went from 60,000 damage to 289,000 damage on that one hit. Mind you, Sealy can hit harder. She can hit harder than that when I have everything active, right? When I have Resurgence active, when I have all these things active, she hits harder. With E2 Sparkle, she's hitting 400,000 damage. I'll show a clip of that. But she can hit 400,000 damage with this setup right here. Where without it, she's hitting 60,000. Guys, I say you can do 3 times more damage if you build a team right. Let's take a look here. 289 divided by 60. That's almost 5 times more damage right there. That's almost 5 times more damage. And the reason I say 3 times is because my Sparkle is E2, so she's doing a lot. But if she wasn't E2, then you're doing at least 3 times more damage when it comes to these setup with these proper teams. That is why, and she's doing it more consistently too because my team is set up to give me more crit rate. Now this is just Sealy team, right? But that's the same thing, the same idea when it comes to building other teams. And I'll show you all my other teams here too. All right, let me fix this here. Same thing when it comes to Acheron's team, right? I have Sparkle boosting my crit damage, my damage percent, making her be able to act more because she's buffing her right there. She's doing all that stuff and giving her crit rate because of her light cone. Then we have Pella debuffing the enemy, giving them all defense down, right? This is hyper carry Acheron, where she's doing as much damage as possible. She's getting crit rate from Fushuan. With all this right here, Acheron is running. She goes from having 56% crit rate to 100% now, right? Because she has her, well, she has a lot of add-ons. So she has her E1 that gives her crit rate, right? So I know I just made a video about Acheron maybe being too strong, and I was an E2 in that video, and so smart me decided to pull more, but you know, that's another story. So that's a hyper carry comp right there. Everybody's focused on that. But then if we look at more of like a dot comp, dual DPS, right? Now we have Ron May who can buff everybody. So she opens up the way, she opens up a lot of good double DPS comps. And then we have Black Swan, who is SP neutral, where like she doesn't have to use her skill every single time, allowing for Kafka to use her skill every single time. And then Huahua is giving them energy and buffing their attack and keeping the team alive by herself. Fantastic, right? This is why I'd say next to Acheron, this is the second strongest team in the game. Boom, fantastic. So you have one person who's dealing damage, you have another person that's dealing damage, and they both, the way they deal damage actually complements each other, because Kafka can activate her damage, and because she hits so hard, she makes Kafka hit even harder. And so it's just, they complement each other. So you got to understand how these characters kits works. That's why it's so important to look at these guys that people make to know how these specific characters work, because there's so many intricacies, there's so many different ways to go about it. So when there's characters that you're interested in, watch guides on them. Watch, because like just reading through it, it's not all gonna stick. So watch guides on them, watch how these characters kits work, and that helps you understand how to build teams around them. Because I make guides, other people make guides, it doesn't matter, as long as the person knows what they're talking about, they're good to go. And a lot of more prominent guide makers do know what they're talking about, and if they do make mistakes, they are held accountable. And we have another team like this right here. This is another hyper carry one right here. Jingli is somebody who really wants to keep her burst up, so I have Ting Yun in here. I have Huohuo in there, so she's able to burst a bunch of times, and she's able to keep her high damage state up. Then we have Ron May, who's giving her a bunch of damage percent because Jingli is somebody who gives herself a lot of attack. So a lot of damage percent is going to be great for her. You know, then you have a team like this right here. This is another dual DPS comp. And again, lo and behold, Ron May is on there because I have 2 DPSs. In all these teams, I have 1 soul sustain. That's why I put so much emphasis on having a soul sustain. So you have Himiko, you have Topaz. Topaz is doing follow-up attacks and buffing up follow-up attacks. Himiko is wiping everybody with fire, everybody on the field, and she does her follow-up attacks. Ron May is allowing us to break seals more so she can do more follow-up attacks, and that's helping out Topaz too. They have synergy there, you know? Same thing over here now. Silver Wolf is doing a bunch of bugs for Dr. Ratio. She's shutting down defense like how she did for Sealy, and then Sparkle is doing the same thing that she's doing for Sealy and what she's doing for Acheron for Dr. Ratio. And because how Sealy's buff works, it goes and it helps Dr. Ratio buff his follow-up attacks because her buff goes throughout to the next turn. So that's why it's important to watch Guide on Sparkle to understand that she's going to be good for buffing follow-up attacks. So now Dr. Ratio, you saw how weak he was hitting back there, but my Dr. Ratio normally, his follow-up attacks are doing 200,000 damage. When I have this setup, right? And before I had E2 Sparkle, it was doing like 180. So he's hitting hard. Same thing right here with Blade. You know, Sparkle actually does work a little bit better for Blade than Bronya does, which was surprising to me when I first realized that. Blade is able to go again and again. He scales off of HP. Bronya's damage percent buff really helps out a lot. Same thing with Ron May, looking good. He needs to be healed a lot, so I have Luocha, who heals more than anybody. But yeah, then we have this one right here. Then we have Jin Yuan's team. He does follow-up attacks. Guess what? Sparkle's gonna help him keep going again and again and again, and it's gonna buff his follow-up attacks too. Ting Yun is going to keep his Lightning Nord burst up, you know, and Fu Xuan is giving him crit rate and protecting the team. See, these are all different teams that I have right here. And if you notice, all these teams, they all have some type of synergy. They all help each other in some way, shape, or form. So there's never a point where my DPS is doing damage by themselves in base form. They are always being helped in some way, right? No DPS that I have is ever doing damage without a buff on them or debuffs to the enemy. None of them. That is why it's important to utilize your harmony characters, your nihility characters, get really good preservation and abundance characters to get the rest of the guys doing more damage, right? And that's how you do it. That's when it comes to team comps. So if you have a character and you want to make sure that they're hitting as hard as they can, that's why it's important to ask questions, because there's so many intricacies when it comes to the characters. There's so many different ways that they work. There's so many different synergies that they can have that does work. So it's not about knowing everything at the top of your head. It's knowing when it's time to ask questions and when it's time to just look up guys, things like that, and ask people who are reputable, who don't ask random people, because as you can see, most people don't understand how to properly build teams. So that's when you turn to your content creators, different people like that. People who have been able to achieve these feats like beating MOC and stuff like that, and ask them, hey, I have done Hung Il. What is a good team for him? And then focus around that. And that will kind of get you along the way. So if you guys have any questions for me, if you have a team comp that you're if you have a character that you want to know how to make team comps around, you're struggling with the content in the game, whether it's a story boss, whether it's MOC, whether it's pure fiction, because pure fiction teams are kind of crazy. Whether it's pure fiction or Golden Gears or Swarm, whatever it is. If you have questions, feel free to ask them down in the comments down below, and I'll help you as best as I can. I plan on answering any type of comment that I do have. Like the video if I do like the content that I do give you, and subscribe to the channel so you get more content like this. Hope that guys helps you. And with that, have a great day. Legend out.